Welcome to the interview. Today's guest is former Raptors assistant coach Dave Hopla. Dave Hopla is a shooting genius. He is called the greatest shooter on the planet. The man hits about 98.7%. I think that's his body temperature. 98.7% of his jumpers. He's worked with tons of NBA players ranging from Kobe Bryant to Andrea Bargnani and all that's in between. He was kind enough to give us some of his time and speak to us about a range of topics, including his time with the Raptors. I'll be quiet and let Dave talk. Enjoy. So Dave, thank you for talking to Raptors Republic. I know that a lot of Raptor fans are familiar with your work. I know that you've worked with the Raptors in the past and have helped out a lot of our players. So I just want to start off with a question that one of our writers had. If you're a regular player, like you're like an amateur athlete who practices, let's say, an hour and a half a day, they're shooting, let's say, 60% from the foul line or something like that. And then they go into a 1 hour session with Dave Hopla. How much can you impact their game in that 1 hour?
Just like everyone, whether it's an amateur or professional, I look at, the person's footwork, their base, their foundation, how are their feet set up at the free throw line? Do they have a routine? Is the routine the same? And then the grip on the basketball, and then finally, the follow through and everything. But the most important thing is you have to have your elbow tucked in. But I just look at it, like I said, building a house from the ground all the way up to the follow through, which would be the roof of the house. Like I always tell everyone, I try to keep it simplified. Like I said, working with players, most of them aren't rocket scientists. So I keep it very, very simple where anyone can understand it. Like my key points are, my feet are shoulder width apart. If I'm right-handed, I have a slightly staggered stance. My right foot's my lead foot. And I plant my toe right next to the tack, the little nail that's in the middle of the free throw line, which is the center of the hoop. So I want my toe, tack, target, 3 T's, and then my toe, knee, hip, elbow, wrist, shoulder, and basketball should be in that shot line. So if I shoot the ball straight, I should never miss, left or right. I should only be long or short if I keep everything in alignment.
Yeah. And one of the things you talk about on your YouTube videos sometimes is that how your left leg is actually not facing the basket. It's actually angled a little to your left.
That's
because
right.
You're a right-handed shooter.
Slightly staggered, exactly right. Because I want that right shoulder to be forward. Whereas if I bring them parallel, now my right shoulder will be back further when I have the basketball. So I want a slightly open, slightly staggered stance. And one of the things that I do, I don't want to get back too far. I don't want it back behind the heel of my right foot because then I'm going to be off balance. And one of the things that I teach kids, I tell them, put your feet together. Now, if I'm right-handed, I'm going to slide my left foot back till my toes fit completely right into my arch and then bring that over shoulder width apart. That should be a nice foundation for me.
And you worked with the Raptors.
My first stint with the Raptors was back when we actually won the Atlantic Division. Sam was coach of the year, and then I was brought up, as a consultant when Jay Triano was coaching. But my first stint was back with Andrea Bargnani's rookie year and everything. We actually had a good year. We lost to the Nets in the first round of the playoffs.
What were your goals when you joined the Raptors at that time with Bargnani and then again in 2009 with DeRozan? Like what players did you work with mostly there, and what did you observe, and what did you try to coach the players on?
Well, the guys, when I first got hired, I got hired right around Thanksgiving. I wasn't in training camp or anything when I got hired. Brian Colangelo and brought me in, and Sam Mitchell. And when I first got there, I said to the guys from that point on, I think they were 3-8 at that time, but they weren't shooting the ball very well from the free throw line, mid range, or from three. And when I got in there, I said to everybody, all I want everyone to do, I said, can you get 1% better? And they laughed and said, hey, yeah, I could do that. I said, okay, if we do that collectively, we're going to have we'll be pretty good shooting the ball. I'm not asking you to go, jump 20%, unrealistic because the season had already started. I said, I want everybody to get 1% better from this point on. And, the guys brought in and they did a great job. I mean, we had we were like Team Euro. We had all the Europeans and stuff, and they were great. Anthony Parker, Jose Calderon, Garbajosa, Rasho Nesterovic. I mean, we had a great group of guys, Andrea, and they bought in and they listened, and we got better. We got better each month as the season went on. And like I said, we were just, inexperienced, in the playoffs. We met a gritty New Jersey team. At the time they had Jason Kidd and they're, veteran, guys that have been battle tested before. But we had a very good year from that point on when I got up there, and I loved every minute, being up there.
You worked with DeMar DeRozan. He was with the Raptors for a very long time. And one of the things that he always tried to work on every summer was his jumper, because that was a limiting factor in his game. Like, he couldn't shoot the three. Did you get to work with DeRozan at the time, and talk to me about like what you've seen from him as the years have gone by? Has his jumper improved? Has his technique changed? What's next for the guy at this point? Because from a Raptor fan's perspective, we love the guy, like we absolutely loved him, but he was never really able to develop that reliable outside jumper beyond the 3-point arc.
Right. And he is a super person. I mean, I actually spent some time with him on a Nike trip. We went to China and stuff, but I've known DeMar since he was, a high school kid in California doing camps out there. And, I think the main thing that he lacks is confidence shooting it. I mean, he's a great, mid-range jump shooter. And, I mean, the game has changed so much. As a matter of fact, I hate the 3-point line. I think it's the worst thing that's ever happened to the game of basketball, to be honest with you. And I'm a shooter, but I just think, it's not fun to watch guys just jacking threes up. I mean, I was watching Orlando the other day in a scrimmage. They were 2 for 22 in the first half from three. And I'm like, this is horrible. And then to go back, Houston missed 27 in a row. I mean, there's no low post anymore, no Hakeem Olajuwons, no Kevin McHale's. And it's just, you got 7-footers shooting at threes and stuff. But I think, DeMar, he knows what his strengths are, and I don't think, he has developed the confidence to shoot the 3-ball. He reluctantly, doesn't shoot it. I mean, it's just like Ben Simmons. I mean, he finally took 2 the other day, but, a lot of guys, you play to your strengths. And I mean, look at Kawhi. I mean, Kawhi, when you guys want to shoot, when he needed a bucket, he didn't shoot a 3. He went to his, bread and butter, 2 dribble pull up mid-range jump shot stuff. But I think, these analytic guys get all, you got to shoot the threes, 33% is equal to 50% and all this other stuff. But I think, too many people fall in love with the 3.
Could this be like a natural cycle for basketball where, like it's like a free market economy? You know what I mean? Sometimes where if the 3 gave you a competitive advantage for a little while.
Right.
And maybe eventually the game progresses back to low post because people aren't doing that enough, and it becomes like a sought out skill.
I think so. I think, once teams, just think defensively. What are you taught defensively? Run back and protect the paint. Well, nobody goes to the paint anymore. They run to the corners, they run to the 3-point line. So I think, that's why a lot of this positionless basketball, guys you're cross-matched all the time. Like, you're just going to be picking up who's ever closest to you and go from there and everything. And I think that, defenses will get better. And, but the way the game is played now, I mean, you can't touch a guy or anything. So, now it's drive and kick and, guys rotate. If I was playing, I wouldn't help off anybody. Okay, guy's got to drive. Okay, he's going to shoot a contested 2 with a guy defending him. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So when they drive and kick, what happens? The guy helps out, they kick it, swing it, and then you're in rotation. So if all these analytical guys, like, okay, they want you to shoot contested 2s, that's what you do. Don't help. Just stay with your guy and let the guy drive and shoot a contested 2 with a guy hanging all over him.
Moving to the current core of the Raptors, I don't know how much you see them, but we have a guy like Pascal Siakam who we certainly think is on his way to superstardom if he continues his trajectory. And you look at his jumper overall and how it has evolved. Like, his shot is considered very unorthodox. I don't think, like, well, let me ask you that. Like, when you look at his jumper, are you like, ugh? Like, what's your reaction when you see something like that?
It's a repeatable shot. I mean, Reggie Miller was a great shooter, right? You wouldn't tell people to shoot like Reggie Miller.
Uh-huh.
And I tell people you have to have a repeatable shot. Every time you shoot, it has to be the same. Nobody has the perfect jump shot. Mm-hmm. So, but it has to be repeatable all the time. When, from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, when you're tired, it still has to be the same. Pascal he's developed his game, not just the shooting, but just all around skill level. I mean, he's done a phenomenal job. He'll continue to improve it. I mean, I'm very impressed, with him, and also, with the Greek Freak. I mean, these guys want to get better, and that's half the battle. I mean, they put the time in, and there's no ceiling on how good these guys can become, especially with their size and their skill set.
In one of your YouTube videos, you mentioned a man by the name of Dana Cunningham. And you mentioned that he was your Michael Jordan. Can you tell us a little bit more about who that individual is?
I'd be more than happy. Well, Dana Cunningham was a Division III player. He went to Frostburg State in Western Maryland. And as a kid growing up in Baltimore, he was working a summer job at General Motors. And he used to come over to the courts where we played at. And, I just thought, wow, this guy's an unbelievable. I don't know, Division I, Division II, Division III. It wasn't like it is now. Everyone kid thinks he's a Division I player, elite and all that stuff. But so he took an interest in me, and he actually gave me a mimeographed sheet called Pistol Pete Homework. His ball handling drills, passing drills, and all that. And he showed me how to do the drills, and he took, an interest in me. And he'd come up to the courts every summer, and I used to, pass the ball for him and everything. And he just told me to, keep working hard and getting better. And I couldn't wait to show him, the next day that I had, gotten better on a certain drill and everything. And then we got together through LinkedIn. I saw him a couple of years ago. I was with the Pistons. I reached out to him, and actually I've run into him a few times because he's living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I saw him a couple of times last year because I was doing a lot of work over there last year at University High School, who had Vernon Carey and Scotty Barnes. They had a bunch of, future pros on the team. And then also Juwan Howard's kids went to school there and everything. So I was doing a lot of work there, and we reconnected.
You went to an NAIA school.
Yep. No academic information available.
That's right. Scottie Pippen. That's right. Scottie Pippen was and
that's it. Dennis Rodman. There's been a few of them,
When did you realize that shooting is your thing and that you can pursue a coaching career in this? Because in a specialist capacity as a shooting coach, I know you're a basketball coach overall, but your specialization has always been shooting. At what age or period of time did that kick in that, oh man, I can make a career out of this?
I was home from summer. I was playing overseas, and I was home one summer, and my old high school coach ran into him. He says, "Hey, Dave, you want to come speak at my basketball camp?" And I'm like, what am I going to speak on? He goes, "Do your workout." And I used to have a whole workout, ball handling. I used to pass against the wall and shoot. And it was just a workout, not an individual workout that I did, with nobody else around. I said, "Sure, I'll do that." And so I went in and I did the camp. And then there was another coach there who coached at Annapolis High School in Annapolis, Maryland. He goes, "Hey, I got a camp next week. You want to come in? You want to do your workout for the kids?" And I was like, this is pretty cool. I'm getting paid to do my workout, And I didn't think anything of it because I was going back overseas. And then when I came back from overseas, and then when I started coaching at Dundalk Community College, I had some local kids that wanted to work out, and I was working with them, was just on just about everything. And then I just said to myself, that was taken away from the team. I said, I can make this a go. And then, in the summer times, I started doing my, shooting. I just, started doing shooting demonstrations, not the ball handling and all the other stuff. But I used to go, years ago, I used to have a bunch of props with me. I used to have a hat with a hand in the face, so I'd shoot with a hand in the face. I used to have a pole, and it was called minute pole, and I used to play one-on-one with the pole and all that stuff, And
one-on-one with the pole. Could you explain that a little? Like, what is it?
I would have a pole, and it said minute pole, not minute bowl, but minute pole. And I'd give it to a kid, and I'd play one-on-one with the kid would have the pole. So it'd be like playing against like a 7-footer.
Ah, okay. Nice.
So,
okay.
and then nowadays I probably could never get away with it because the pole was painted black and it said minute pole instead of bowl. And now, in this day and age, everyone's so sensitive, I probably would have offended somebody, But the rules of the game were if they blocked the shot, they got 2 points. If I got fouled and I didn't score, they still got a point because I said I'm on the road. I don't get any calls. And then I would only get a point, if I scored. So it was a lot of fun back then. That's back when I could move a bit, Now I'm older, so I just, shoot the ball still, everything.
When you work with NBA teams and you walk into the arena, has everybody heard of you, or do you feel like you have to go into arena and maybe there are players who haven't heard of you before, and you have to kind of demonstrate, look, man, I'm about to coach you on shooting. Here, I'm going to hit like 98 out of 100 shots just to make sure like you're paying attention. Do you feel like you have to kind of do that sometimes to get player attention, or are they like in tune with you right from the start?
No, I've been doing this for so long. Most of the kids have seen me at camp. Like even when I first came up to Toronto, the guys were like, "Oh, I saw you. I saw you when I was there," because I've done so many camps over the years. Guys have seen me. A lot of guys have seen me at the basketball camps and so forth and everything. But that's how, I get their attention, because I make shots. I remember the first time, I was doing a camp in Florida, and I always tell people, you never know who's watching you. And I was, shooting the ball. And when I was finished doing my lecture, George Karl was coaching the Supersonics. He was there, and he goes, you're the greatest shooter in the universe. I'm going to bring you out, to Seattle. And he goes, how am I going to get those guys to, listen to you? And I just went out as a consultant, for training camp and stuff. I said, well, what caught your attention? He goes, well, you shot and made every shot. I said, well, just put me down the other end. So he had all the guys gathered in, and I was down the other end of the court shooting. And after 5 minutes, Gary Payton's like, yo, man, that dude ain't missed a shot yet. So he knew that's what I had their attention. So,
okay.
But,
nice.
So many people, need to see it and so forth, and like, especially in this day and age, everyone's a visual learner, but like, everyone's like, it's not on the internet. It never happened, everyone's so enthralled with that stuff. And me, I'm like, I couldn't care less about a computer and all that stuff. But, I still chart my shots. Now they got these apps that actually will videotape you, a thing called Home Court. Steve Nash is actually involved in it. And I'm saying these kids, how can you not be a good shooter? But they want you to shoot the ball and make it go in too, I guess, but the app, this thing, like you go out and you set it up like at midcourt and you shoot a free throw, and then it captivates your whole workout. It tells you what you shot and tells you what your arc is and everything. I'm like, how can there be a bad shooter in this day and age with everything that you have at your fingertips?
Yeah.
But you got to go out and shoot. You can't like just have the app and say, hey, yeah, I got the app. Got to use it.
You told a story about you taking Brendan Haywood, who was a 51% foul shooter, and converting him into a 74% foul shooter. And then I think he gave you a present after he won the championship in Dallas, a gold ball, I believe. Well, two questions. One, where's that gold ball? And second, does it annoy you? Because it does annoy me when I see big men who are shooting like a ridiculous 40, 50%, like Andre Drummond style shooting. Mm-hmm. And when we're watching, like fans are thinking, this is just a question of putting the effort and coaching in, and that's just not happening. How do you explain the fact that we have such poor free throw shooting in a professional league?
Well, it's funny to say that the first part, the basketball, is up at my home up in Boothbay Harbor, Maine. It's a gold ball, with all the signatures of the Dallas Mavericks championship team. And go back to Brendan, he was willing to, to listen to me and do what I said. I said, you can't go on, with this. And he accepted my coaching and he trusted in me, and that's a big thing, player and coach, they trust one another. And then other people, they don't put the time in. I mean, it's I was with Detroit actually, and I was there with Andre Drummond, and it was funny. I mean, I was working with them for a little bit in the first year, and then they pulled me off of them. And it's like I said, it doesn't happen overnight, and everything. So it was like crazy, and I thought that was one of the main reasons they brought me up there. And I would cringe, when I'd see Andre go into the line and so forth, but it's crazy business. But the main thing is, guys don't put the time in. I mean, free throw shooting has not evolved like it should. I mean, you look at it even in college and so forth. There's no reason why pro teams shouldn't shoot 80%. Every team in the NBA. But nobody wants to go in. It's not glamorous. I mean, it's not glamorous, and it's I always say this to people. I said, everybody wants to do all these crazy drills. All these trainers are juggling tennis balls and all of this stuff. That's not basketball. I said, but to do the simple things. I mean, I had a kid I was working with the other day. He's a senior in high school. He don't even have to do 4 different pivots. He knows how to do one pivot, but he's, going through his legs 29 times, and it's and you're not going to do that. And that's what I tell these kids. I said, these trainers nowadays, these so-called trainers, they spend 98% of the time working on something you do less than 2% of the time. I mean, when does every kid go through his legs 72 times into a step back? There's 5 guys in the NBA to do that. That's it. You're going to be a role player. You got to learn to catch and shoot, son. Get your shot with 2 dribbles. But everybody's got to do all this crazy stuff. It's a simple game. It's Pete Newell said years ago. It's the most overcoached and undertaught game there is.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned in the past in interviews about focusing on the basics. I think that there was one story that you said where Kobe Bryant in a workout at 4:30 a.m. When he was working out, he spent basically the entire time working on a jab step, like a simple jab step. And Michael Jordan's, after his practices, would go and shoot chest passes just to get those basics right because he hadn't perfected that. Do you still see that area of the game is still undercoached and the focus on basics still isn't there? And is that still true at the NBA level as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, you're talking 2 of the greatest players to ever play. And that's why they're 2 of the greatest players to ever play. Because they never got tired of the basics and the fundamentals. They wanted to master them. And it's, but most of the people are well, I don't need to do that. But in everything we do in this world, when things start to flounder in the business world, what's the boss say? Let's go back to what?
Basics.
Basics. But why do we get away from basics? Oh, I know how to do that. So now let's skip the basics and let's go to something else. But now that you've skipped the basics, what happens now?
The foundation is
something else. Yeah, exactly. Now you got to rebuild the foundation because you've gotten away from it. It's just with everything. When I come in, I'll go a great story years ago. And like I said, we learned from the players. Well, I was working Derek Fisher out when he was playing for the Lakers. And we were at Loyola Marymount. He was stuck in traffic. He could leave 5 hours early and still be late out in L.A., as you know, with the traffic out there. So he's calling me. He's like, Coach Hop, I'm going to be late. I'm okay. So we don't have the gym for an hour. When you get here, we'll get right into it because volleyball was coming in. So we had 40 minutes. So he gets in. And I went right into shooting jump shots and everything. And he had a terrible workout because when I do individual workouts, I'd always chart also what the players did, Can't do it when I have 3 or 4 guys, but when I have one guy, I would always, chart, this is what you did. Today. And I said, D Fish, man, you were horrible today. He goes, we didn't do any form shooting, Coach. So I said to myself, okay, even if it's for 2 minutes, we're going to get in front of that basket. We're going to do our one-hand form shooting. We're going to add our balance hand. And that, you see the ball go in, it gives you a little bit of confidence going. Whereas we went out and started, shooting 18-foot jump shots with no warm-up. And, so I said to myself, even if it's for 2 minutes, we'll spend with one hand and 2 minutes with 2. We're going to at least do some form shooting and stuff. But everyone wants to do everybody wants to do the fancy stuff. Everybody wants to be Steph Curry, James Harden, but not everyone's. They're anomalies,
Like, you preach balance, you preach form, all that fundamental stuff. And then you have guys like James Harden, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson come in and, arguably do less of that, but still be very successful. And you describe them as anomalies. But watching those kind of guys, has that altered or changed your view on how shooting should be coached or the mechanics of shooting at all?
No, not at all. I mean, you look at Klay Thompson. I mean, I tell you how efficient he is. I mean, he scores his points. He took 11 dribbles the whole game. I mean, James Harden's he's just a scorer. But I mean, what he does, I mean, there's nobody else who does what he does. I mean, with 29 dribbles through his legs, step back with 5 steps before he shoots it. I mean, it's like, anywhere else it'd be a travel and stuff. But I mean, he's a great scorer. I mean, gets to the free throw line and everything, and he's figured out, how to get the most of his ability. And then that's Houston's philosophy is for him to, dominate the basketball and stuff. I don't know how many people would like playing with somebody like that, but he's a great player, and he's always been a great player, James Harden, in high school and everything. So
you say we're obsessed with motion, and as soon as you introduce motion, you decrease accuracy of your shot. When you see guys like Kyle Lowry, who are always like maybe, opting for the lean in jumper, feet aren't always necessarily set, but they're still having a lot of success.
Right.
Two questions. One, what do you mean by that obsessed with motion? And how do you kind of consolidate that with guys who have a lot of motion arguably in their shot, but are successful?
Well, what's your determination of successful? I mean, is 40% successful? I mean, the more times you can do something the same way, you're going to be successful. I mean, there's times where you're going to hit leaner shots, but how often do you shoot a leaner shot as opposed to, a regular jump shot with your feet underneath you? That's why you go to free throw line. People shoot better at the free throw line than they do, shooting the ball off the bounce or being contested, because there's more motion. There's more factors in it. And what I mean by motion, like I say, if you eliminate motion, you increase accuracy. The more moving parts you have, the more problems you have to break down. When you shoot the ball, you don't want 28 motions. I mean, and one of the things that all these guys do at night, and I've noticed, is when they shoot the basketball, their left hand, which I call a balance hand, comes flying down. Now, you got your right hand going towards the basket, and what are you doing with your left hand? You're pulling it back. Now, when you drop, everything's connected. So if I drop my left hand, do you think my right hand is going to stay straight when I drop it at a high rate of speed?
I doubt it.
No, it's going to turn. Your whole body's going to turn. So you see people they'll turn to their left if they drop their left hand and so forth, And like I said, when they freeze their follow through, you want to hold your hands high. And I was watching a tape of Giannis shoot the other day with his big hands. His actual left hand, which I call a balance hand, some coaches call it a guide hand. I said, well, what's the guide hand doing? The coach says it guides the ball into the hoop. I said, well, that guy should call it a misguide hand because it never goes in the hoop, And then other coaches call it an off hand. That's a negative term. You don't want your shot to be off. Then other coaches call it a non-shooting hand. That's a negative term. Non-shooter. So I call it a balance hand because its job is to balance the ball and lift the ball, and it shouldn't be involved in the shot. But Giannis, when he shoots it, his balance hand is actually higher than his shooting hand. So what does that tell you? That means that's involved in the shot as he's going up. He is continually extending with his balance hand. Whereas you watch, shooters, there's the old Oscar Robertson shot where his balance hand's actually off the basketball and his arm's in a perfect L, because all it's to do, once I catch in my L, I lift the L. From there on, my balance hand's job is done. And then you get some guys that twist it like Joakim Noah, and the ball spins like a cyclone, like a tornado. It's hard to believe he shoots like that. His dad was a tennis pro. I can't believe it. So
you also mentioned something about the ball not actually touching the palm of your hand as you're shooting it, because that actually affects the direction of the shot.
Right. You want the ball to rest on the finger pads and fingertips. I should see daylight on with both hands. My palm should never touch it. I should be able to stick 2 fingers underneath the front of the ball and my palm, on my shooting hand and also my balance hand. There should be daylight between the finger pads.
Yeah. And the other myth that you sort of busted for me a while back was when you're shooting, you aim for the middle of the hoop. You don't aim for the back of the rim, because sometimes coaches teach you aim for the back of the rim because you might be tired and you might be short.
Yeah. Well, there's coaches that tell you the front of the rim. There's coaches that tell you to aim for the hooks. There's all kinds. And where do you want to put the ball?
In the hoop.
Yeah, what part of the hoop?
The swish. I want to hear a swish.
Yeah, in the middle, exactly. And where's the middle of the hoop whenever you shoot the basketball?
in the middle of the hoop.
In the middle of the hoop, okay? Yep. Now, the front of the rim. You shoot from the corner, you can't see the front of the rim. So now what do you shoot for? The side of the rim. Same thing whether it's front or back, right? Then the same thing, some people say to look at the hooks. Well, what hook do you look at? The middle hook. There's 12 hooks up there, I tell them. I know I have 5 fingers. I know what the middle finger is. I said, so you're picking out 3 different hooks. You got a hand in your face. You're going to be able to pick a hook at. If you discipline yourself and you look up there and you look at that middle of the hoop, it's like, how do I ever miss? It's huge. And now if I aim for the middle, I could be long, short, off left, off right, or any combination of those shots and still have a chance to make it. The only time I would ever change my shot, my target, is if I shot a bank shot. And I always tell people this. Why do I make shots? I'm consistent. Consistency is the mark of greatness. So I'm not going to change my target from front to back to side to left to right. I want that hole, put it right in the middle. And all I got to do is put it somewhere in that middle. Guys, all the time, I'll do a thing with a guy. I'll watch him shoot for 5 minutes, and I'll chart like where he shoots the ball, right? And I'll say to him, hey, you aim for the front of the rim, don't you? He goes, how'd you know that? I said, well, you hit it 79 times. You're a great shooter. You got the wrong target.
Yeah.
And I say, and the thing is, the problem if you aim for the front of the rim, because my first coach in high school told me aim for the front of the rim. I hit the front of every damn time. Then if you shot short, you shot an air ball. Then when I got the varsity, finally made varsity, coach told me aim for the back of the rim. I aimed for the back of the rim. Finally got to catch the ball out in net for Hank Slider, who's one of the great teachers of shooting when I was a kid. And I got to catch the ball out in net for him. And I said, this is I'm going to find out what he looks at. And he asked me the same question I just asked you. He said, son, where do you want to put the ball when you shoot it? I said, in the hoop. And he said, what part? I said, the middle, the center. He goes, exactly right. That way you can make mistakes and still make shots.
Are there some NBA players that you look at right now and you look at, oh man, how does that shot even go in?
Oh, there's quite a few of them. You know, I mean, it's I just wonder how to get to the level of where they're at with the way they shoot the basketball. But I mean, like I said, it's the game is so, the guys are so athletic and long now and so forth. But and like I said, everyone just jacks up three. So like now, he's great game. Like the other day, I'm like, everyone was going crazy about ball. Mm-hmm. Oh, he had a great game. He had 6. The guy didn't even shoot 50%. To me, a great game's like the guy was 11 for 13 from the field. That's a great game to me. Not 5 for 15. That ain't a great game. Mm-hmm. It's like we've just become accepting mediocrity and saying it's great. It's just but it's society now. Everything's everything. One good thing that everyone's posting. It's like I get all these kids. Everyone's elite, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's elite. Well, I see an elite team lose by 80. So what does that make that other team over there? What are they, supersonic elite? It's just like, and I get these parents tell me, oh, my kid's elite. And I'm like, where, in the neighborhood? And then they're like, oh, he's a rising 10th grader. I said, oh, so that means he's going to be a sophomore. I just get them going because they think the kids are like, the next, LeBron James or something. We're just so, skewed with our view of talent nowadays with these kids. And I mean, in the league is so young nowadays. I mean, it hurts I think it hurts the NBA product, and it also hurts the college product. I mean, now these guys are like transferring 50-year seniors and all this stuff in college, and kids are being re-recruited from the middle school, the mid-majors to the major Division Ones. It's all crazy.
The Raptors obviously are the defending champs. They lost Kawhi Leonard. Their biggest threat in the East appears to be the Bucks, followed by maybe the Heat. I probably believe is their biggest challenge after the Bucks. How do you see the East shaping out a little bit?
You know what? I've been thinking of this and been watching the scrimmages. I think anything's possible right now because it's just uncharted waters for everybody. I mean, there's no home court advantage, and and I love Toronto. I love my time in Toronto. There's the great fans are up there. And I think it's going to be whoever can adapt to this whole situation. I mean, it's, there's no travel. I mean, you're playing with no fans, and, I think a lot of it's going to be like, what team can energize one another? The guys on the bench and starters, can we energize? I mean, I think anything's liable to happen. Then, you got the unknowns. What if somebody goes out, and pulls a Lou Williams during the season and stuff? It's just, you got to get guys that are connected on the same page, and willing to do what you have to do during this time. I mean, to be cooped up for all this time. As a matter of fact, you guys were down. Toronto was down earlier. Actually, they were right down the street from where I'm at in Naples. They were practicing over at Florida Gulf Coast and everything before, heading to the bubble and stuff. So, I mean, it's going to be tough for whoever does it. And I just think it's, whoever wins it, they should get an asterisk this year for being the toughest winner, to ever win, with the things going through this. I mean,
oh, wow.
Imagine being away for the whole time. I mean, I think this will be whoever wins it, this is going to be the toughest one, I think.
So it's a good asterisk. It's a bolded asterisk. It's more than
it should be. Yeah, it should be. They should sing the praises whoever wins this year, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, because it's going to be such a mental grind for you. I mean, you're stuck in a hotel room. I mean, you can't go anywhere. I mean,
Alvin Williams, a former Raptor, gave an interview a couple days back.
I know Alvin.
Yeah, and they asked him this exact same question, and his response was very surprising. He said his response wasn't about basketball at all. It was more about who is more mentally ready or mentally comfortable, or are they? Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like you got to stay like you got to be like, okay, we go. And the thing is, it's not okay, you're done with the basketball. Now, what do you do the rest of the time? I mean, you're done after your game of basketball. What are you doing with the rest of your day? And you can't go anywhere. And I said, this whole thing with Lou Williams, it's just a matter of time before somebody else screws up. I'm telling you that right now. I mean, because a lot of guys aren't mentally tough. And you see a lot of great players that have come through the league that were great talents, but mentally they couldn't deal with the structure. And, they're out of the league in a matter of, a couple of years or whatever, because they're not mentally tough. And that's why, people talk about, the great ones. Michael Jordan, mentally tough. Kobe Bryant, mentally tough. And that's what it's going to come down to, guys that are like, mentally tough. It's not physical toughness. It's going to be mental toughness. I agree with what Alvin said on that. It's going to be really difficult.
And do you have any players that, you work with, hundreds of players. Are there any ones that stuck out for any particular reason? Someone you really enjoyed working with? You mentioned Meta World Peace, Ron Artest being an interesting character, and you told that story. Are there any other ones that you're like, man, that was a good workout because maybe the person listened a lot, or maybe they had some quirks, anything like that?
Well, there's been a number of mine. I've been doing this stuff now for over 30 years and stuff. But I always say, Kobe was double-edged sword. He was a blessing and a curse working with him. And I was working for Arn Tellem, who was Kobe's agent at the time. And Kobe, was just coming out of high school and stuff. And he just worked so hard, and he listened. And, I mean, he looked you right in the eye when you were teaching him. And, he was a great talent. I didn't think he was ready for, the NBA's first year. And he struggled his first year. I mean, he shot 4 air balls in the thing, but just think of how tough mentally it is. How many people would shoot 4 air balls and come back and perform like he did? I mean, think of Nick Anderson when he missed those 4 free throws. Never was the same player. But Kobe was just so mentally tough. And one of the things I'll never forget, after the first workout, we were working out at Cal State Northridge. And I'm with Arn Tellem, I was with David and Dana Pump. We're big basketball guys back on the West Coast. And we're going to go to Boston Market. Kobe wanted to go to Boston Market after we worked out. And he had Street and Smith's basketball yearbook, right? Now he's 17, just out of high school. And he's going through Atlanta. He's going down the roster. Oh, I'm better than him. 2 years from now, I'll kill this guy. Oh, I'll destroy this guy right now. Boom, Boston. He had like a hit list. I'm saying, this kid's 17, and he's like, it was at another level, and just paid attention to detail. And he looked you in the eye, Coach, tell me what I got to do. I want to be the greatest player to ever play. And you don't get people like that. Most kids now, when you're trying to teach them, they take it like you're attacking their game, like you're trying to correct them. Yeah, all right, Coach. And they're walking away with their head down. Very few kids nowadays look you in the eye when you're trying to teach them and correct them. They look at it like you're attacking their game, like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, instead of embracing coaching, and the great ones want to be coached.
Yeah. You mentioned one of your favorite players being Gilbert Arenas, who was a phenomenal point guard for the Washington Wizards. Another guy I will posit as being equally pretty damn good in his day and age. Another Wizards point guard, Rod Strickland, who was very, very good. You spent some time with the Wizards, some extended time there. What were your impressions of some of the players you saw? Because those Wizards had a talented roster in those days.
Yes, I was there. Unfortunately, I was there. Gilbert was hurt when I was down there for most of his career. When I was there, we had Caron Butler and Antoine Jameson, who were both All-Stars my first year there. And then we had some interesting characters. We drafted Swaggy P. He was Nick Young back then, but I don't know when he became Swaggy P, but he wasn't Swaggy anything back then. He's a great kid, character. And then the next year we drafted JaVale McGee. So, how
did that go?
Like I said, we had an interesting crew, and I'll never forget when I was over with Gordy Cheza, who coached with Jerry Sloan for a number of years. And when we were on this tour together, he said to me that, he said, Dave, you have a very dysfunctional team. He said, but we had, like I said, Gilbert, like I said, he was hurt most of the time. I was in the 2 years I was in Washington and everything. But we had, like I said, we had Brendan Haywood. We had another character too. We had Andre Bloch.
That's right.
Who's now playing over in he's playing over in China right now. And I'll never forget when he went to he was with the Brooklyn Nets for a little bit, and he's playing for the Filipino national team. Now he's not Filipino any more than I am, right? So I said, he was on the bench, and it was, before the game, we're working our guys out. And I said, hey, Andre, I said, you're on the Filipino national team? He says, yeah. I said, you can't even spell Filipino. He goes, yes, I can. It's PH. I says, not Filipino. I said, you're spelling the Philippines. I said, I told you, you're not. So, I mean, but we had some really, solid pros, though, too. We had Antonio Daniels, who's a great guy. He does a great job on NBA radio. And it's funny, a lot of the players we had are now doing, like Caron's with ESPN, and Antoine's, I think, play-by-play now with the Wizards. Scary
team. Yeah, that was a scary roster at the time. Yeah.
But I tell you, when I was in Toronto, because I was in Toronto before I went to Washington, and I would have never have left Toronto, but my wife, she couldn't work out of Canada and everything, with her job. She's a national account manager, but I went to Toronto, from Toronto to Washington. But the year I was in Toronto, I mean, that was when Gilbert was healthy. I mean, they could put some points on the board. They had him, they had, Karan and Antoine, and then they used to have Larry Hughes. They had a tough team back then.
Any Toronto stories? Any Toronto player stories that stick out in your long career?
Yeah, Toronto, like I said, was my first full-time gig in the NBA, and we had some interesting characters on our team up there. My rookie year in the league, we had Euro Slokar, who was a big left-hander from Russia. We had Pop Sal. PJ Tucker was with us actually at the time. PJ was bouncing back and forth between the D League and everything, and we had Russia and Estero, too. He was a character. But the great thing about the Toronto team, I mean, we were fun to watch because we shared the basketball, and everyone got together. We got along so well, and it was we'd be out as dinner as a coaching staff, and then teams all have cliques. We didn't have any cliques. We had everybody you could never tell who was going to be together, and you would figure, okay, TJ Ford and Chris Bosh, both African Americans, both from Texas, both our highest paid players. You figured they'd be hanging out all the time. We'd be out to eat. All of a sudden, TJ Ford would be walking in with Rasho Nesterovic. What do they have in common, right? The next time we're somewhere, there's TJ Ford and Jose Calderon walking out together. The guys all intermingled. It wasn't like you and me hang out every road trip. It was. And it showed on the court. I mean, your chemistry shows on the court. I mean, we had possessions where I swear to God, we had 8 or 9 passes before somebody got a wide open shot. It was such fun to watch when the game's played the right way.
You did play in Ireland. You played in Belfast because you went overseas in the 80s. What did you notice about the contrast in just culture maybe of the teams in the Irish League versus what you're experiencing in the NBA? Talk to me about some of the contrasts that you encountered.
Well, the travel. I mean, we would get in a couple cars and travel down. We didn't have a bus or a coach or whatever they called it over there. We had just getting busy, almost be like playing in an unlimited league here in the States or in Canada. Okay, we're going to meet at such and such a time, and you got 3 or 4 cars, and you piled in and you headed down to play. And I know when I first got over there and we lost, I'd be so mad and disappointed that we lost because I hated losing. And say we were in Dublin, and after playing, the guys would all get together and they'd go to one of the team's, local pubs or club. And they would drink a few pints after the game, and I'd be like, "I'm not going." I'm pissed off, and I used to sit out in the car, and then finally after the 3rd time, I said, "What am I doing sitting in the car? I'm sitting here like a damn fool. Everyone else is there." And I said, "I played the best I could." So I came up with the saying, "Win or lose, we booze." It was you went out but the thing is, a lot of the players back then, My teammate was Boo Williams, who runs a huge AAU program down in Norfolk, Virginia area, Hampton News. He was my teammate, and the thing is, you had your Americans, and Americans all hung out together, and it's good, talking to them after games and everything. But it was different. We got paid, and then the other players, they weren't professional. They might get a few dollars here and there, but they worked regular jobs. And for them to go out on a weekend, that was a big thing for them after the game to have a few drinks, they made sacrifices the whole week to do training and everything. So, and then the practice facilities always was, their arenas weren't nowhere near what you play in and stuff. I mean, some of the gyms were so cold over there. But like I said, It's a journey. It's basketball, you know.
Yeah, I'm a big soccer fan as well, so I follow a lot of European football or soccer, and in the 80s and 90s, and even in the 2000s, just to a fair degree, there was a big drinking culture in that part of the world. Where you mentioned drinking after the game, people used to walk into the game buzzed.
Well, I played. I'll tell you, I played in a tournament one year over in Germany. I went over as a guest player. You know, when the Irish national team toured the Northeast Conference. They would go around Thanksgiving, so there would be no National League games. So I went over and played as a guest player in Germany, and I'm in the locker room at halftime, and they're drinking beer and smoking cigarettes, and I'm like, holy cow! I'm like, they're like, do you want one? I'm like, hell no! I mean. But it's like I said, different culture and stuff. I mean, you know, we used to call Garbajosa the Marlboro man, you know, because he used to like to smoke those cigarettes and stuff. But it wasn't, you know, not like, you know, here in the, you know, like back in the old days, guys used to smoke in a locker room at halftime and stuff, you know.
Jorge Garbajosa?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a horrific leg injury. Horrific.
Yeah, that was devastating. Yeah. I was with the team then when that happened. I think if he wouldn't have got hurt, we would have beat the Nets. I really believe that. He was some player. He knew how to play.
I traveled for that series to New Jersey with 12 other people. Mm-hmm. We crossed the border at night and we went over and we saw games. Boki Nakbar killed us that series as well. If you remember that, that was a painful one. Yeah. So Dave, what are you doing these days?
Right now, during this whole coronavirus thing, I'm down in beautiful Naples, Florida. I actually have one of the reasons I moved down here is I have my own gym, so I haven't missed any workouts or anything or working with players during the pandemic because it's a private gym. It's actually at my best friend's home in his house. So I've been very fortunate and blessed. I'm the only person that uses it and whoever I work with. So very blessed to have that. And otherwise, you know, I was just saying to my wife last night, I said, you know, right now I should be in Phoenix, Arizona doing some camps. And then from Phoenix, I'd be going over to UCLA and spending a week at camps in California and then heading down to San Diego. But with this whole pandemic going on, I didn't speak at any camps this summer, but I've continued to maintain workouts just with local players. I had some people coming down before it got crazy. I mean, the coronavirus is off the charts right now here in Florida. So like nobody's coming down here for right now because our numbers have been like spiking upwards. And, but you know, once it clears up, you know, and now with the whole schedule change, I mean, it'll be crazy. I'll have some agents will be reaching out to me to get guys to work out, you know, before whenever the pre-draft camps will be when they bring them in. I don't know how that's going to be. And I don't think nobody's really been talking about when that's going to happen, you know, with the draft picks and so forth. And it's just interesting how that's going to work. The guys haven't been able to bring them in to work them out and stuff. So
I think we all have a player that we always emulate and go, oh man, that's a pretty jumper. For me, it was Allen Houston of the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, and I was with Allen with the Knicks. Allen had a beautiful shot. Yeah. Great guy too.
Are there any ones that you look at NBA players or even non-NBA players and go, that's how I want to shoot?
Guys that like, you know, like that I really like looked at back in the day, like, you know, when I was a kid growing up was, you know, Jerry West. I mean, Jerry West had a beautiful jump shot. And then as I got, you know, playing and everything, I mean, I looked at, you know, Brian Winters, Mark Price, you know, those guys had really nice form on their shot. I mean, then you get into, you know, like I said, nowadays, you know, Klay Thompson and so forth, J.J. Redick, Rick Barry had a beautiful jump shot.
And finally, make a call. Pick an East winner, a West winner, and a Finals winner.
Oh, okay. Geez. I guess I'm going to go with, I guess, I don't say this is a tough one. Like I said, I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'd like to see the Raptors repeat, to be honest with you. So I was so happy when they did win it because of my time up there. But I guess I'd have to go just like with the experts picking the Bucks, and then I'm going to go with the Clippers in the West. And then I guess the winners, I'm going to pick the Clippers. That's my picks here.
Okay. Awesome, Dave. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It's been wonderful. Good luck in your coaching camps when they do resume. It's phenomenal following your career. Listener, go to YouTube, search for Dave Hopla. There's a ton of good information out there. I know that I looked at your videos a few times, and it definitely helped my shot a little bit. The biggest tip that you gave me was about the shot window of making sure that you can actually see the ball as you go through it, because your elbows might block it, and that actually made it took me from being like a 21% shooter to like a 31% shooter. So I mean, credit to you.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for having me on, and I send my love up north there to everybody, and go Raptors.